glad I'm glad to introduce Mr. N. Malyadri Garu to Ananta IAS Academy students and the other general listeners and viewers who are in this Zoom conference. Mr. Malyadri studied at Jawahar Bharati Kavali, and he was a very active union leader at Kavali when he was studying. And fortunately, my cousin brother, Mr. Chandrasekhar, was his classmate in Jawahar Bharati. Later, Malyadri sir joined the judicial service, and he served for more than 30 years as a district judge and other capacities. He is a well-known jurist. He took voluntary retirement to serve the public, and he is presently associated with the Bar Association of Supreme Court of India, and he moves from Delhi and Hyderabad, and he is a constitutional expert. When we requested him to discuss with the Ananta IAS Academy students about the Constitution, he readily accepted it. And he will be delivering about 3 lectures on 3 Saturdays at the same time at 5 o'clock. And I request our students to take down the notes and be prepared about the Constitution. We have already circulated to you the video of Malyadri Garu. Malyadri Garu is a very good communicator. He runs his own channel and he is an international expert on different subjects of jurisprudence and others. I request Malyadri Garu to kindly tell our students about the constitutional provisions. Mr. Malyadri Garu.
Supreme Namaskarams to all of you, especially to my close guide, friend, philosopher, Mr. Padmanabh Rao Garu, on whom I have got highest regard. I am also paying my respects to Ananta IAS Academy and other viewers who are there, and best wishes to all the IAS aspirants. I am a proud privilege to associate with the Ananta IAS Academy and interact and learn from all of you some of the important aspects of life, in particular in relation to Constitution. As I know, some of us mostly speak in Telugu also. Here and there, I would like to impress upon all of you to understand the various provisions of the Constitution in a easiest way. In order to do so, I may speak in Telugu also here and there. For understanding any Constitution, we have to understand the lives and then circumstances, and under what circumstances and facts the particular provision is made or particular rule is made. You know very well that we have got a written Constitution. There are several countries in which there are no written Constitution. While I was preparing for discussing with all of you, in order to understand the intricacies of various provisions of the Indian Constitution, I had an opportunity to go through the circumstances in which American Constitution is made. In order to understand the Constitution of our country, we have to understand the constitutions of various countries. For example, if you are understanding or reading the principles of state policy, you have to understand and read provisions of Irish Constitution, because we derived directive principles of state policy concept from that Constitution. So in order to understand the fundamental rights or various provisions of the Constitution, when I read about the American constitutional system, I understand when it was made, Constitution, when American Constitution was prepared in the Constitutional Assembly, which is there since 1789, you can understand in a state, Philadelphia, about 55 delegates attended the convention came from 12 states, except Rhode Island did not send a delegation. So at that time, the then United States encompassed an area of about 3,50,000 square miles, a large portion of which was Indian country, where settlers needed armored protection. To the north of the cluster of the states, was British Canada. To the west was Spanish territory, and the south was bounded by Spanish Florida. The total population of the American United States is only 4 million persons. The great majority of those people were of British, over 4 million British farmers living in rural areas or small towns. Why I'm saying about all these things are, in order to understand our constitution also, like how in American Constitution in 1789, a constitution was made or prepared in Constitutional Assembly, attended by 55 persons. There were no roads to go to Philadelphia. People went there by horse or by some trams, stopping here and there. With all great difficulty, they went there. Those were the days when the Constitution of America was prepared. In those times, they gave importance to individualism than socialism. Slowly, it is converted into socialism. So, in America, it was like that. In India, by the time we had Constitutional Assembly constituted, already there were so many opportunities either for transport or for easily attending the Constitutional Assembly debates and other facilities. But unfortunately, even after that, several of the members of the Constitutional Assembly could not attend it for various reasons, whatever it is. By spending 64 lakhs of rupees, after elaborate discussions, the Constitutional Assembly has prepared the draft constitution. Now we will deal with various provisions of the constitution. In fact, when our constitution is prepared, most of the people of different countries, they thought that our constitution is going to be failed, for the simple reason they were in an understanding that Indians cannot run their country. They always want to be they cannot rule, because in constitution right to franchise to all persons, whether they are having education or not, are given. So when certain provisions are made, people discussed, is it necessary like that? So along Constitutional Assembly debates, people were also discussing outside the Constitutional Assembly. Various countries were looking at us, whether the constitution will be framed properly or not. But fortunately, we have had experience of various constitutions of different countries and different provisions. Apart from all that, the leaders of our country at that time, they sacrificed their lives and got the freedom. So they all had in their mind patriotism. When patriotism is there, they want to come. They have had experience of colonial laws. They have had experience of how other country rules our country. They know about the values of freedom. They know about the values of equality. So, constitutional members, they were selected by the elected persons. They were not elected by the public or the people. they were selected and nominated. Who were selected? The persons who are having confidence in the elected government at that time. Which government was there? The British government was there. What was the time? We were all fighting for justice and freedom and protection of property and other rights of us. In those times, very, very great persons are selected by the elected members of the different assemblies in order to constitute Constitutional Assembly. Now, we will look into how many provisions are there, what are the importance of each provision and other things. On 1949, 26th November, the Constitution of India was passed by the Constitutional Assembly. On 26th, 1950, it came into effect. Indian Constitution originally had 395 articles in 22 parts and 8 schedules at the time of the commencement in the year 1950. Currently, after so many amendments, there are 12 schedules and 5 appendices. There are about 4 amendments by the time I prepared this paper, but afterwards also there are 2-3 more amendments like Jammu and Kashmir state and other things. Now let us see what our constitution is. Before that, I would like to say to you, Indian Constitution is the longest constitution in the world, obvious from the fact that we are so diverse, and it had to be longest one. It begins with the preamble to the Indian Constitution. Our Constitution preamble most finely worded. Of course, after the amendment, we added 2 words, socialist, secular, in 1976 or so. These 2 words were not there originally in the preamble. I'll just read for the sake of convenience of all of us to understand the objects which we want to achieve through this constitution, the preamble of our constitution. The preamble. We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India. So we have resolved, the people of the country resolved to constitute India. They want to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens justice, liberty, equality, and to promote fraternity. They adopted Constitutional Assembly on behalf of the people of India, adopted and enacted and give to themselves this constitution. ప్రజల కోసం ప్రజలే ప్రజల తరపున Constitutional Assembly వారు దీన్ని అడాప్ట్ చేసుకున్నారు. So selected, the persons who are selected as members of the Constitutional Assembly by the persons who are elected members of the different legislatures at that time adopted this constitution for us in order to secure the objects. What are those objects? Sovereign, democratic republic. They want to constitute that. Later we added socialist and secular. With this constitution, what they want to achieve: justice, social, economic and political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship, and equality of status and of opportunity, and promote among us all of them fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nation. Why they mentioned about the dignity of the individual? Because during British rule, it is felt that the people of this country were not treated with dignity. Why they mentioned unity and integrity of the nation? Because there are so many states ruled by different rulers. They all have to be made as part of the Indian system. So because of all that, they have put in a preamble all these aspects. So now we have to see how these objects which we have mentioned in the preamble are going to be achieved through our constitution. This is what we are going to discuss. We want to achieve the goal of welfare state where justice, liberty, equality for all, either social, economic and political or other aspects, we want to achieve it through social revolution. So social revolution, we want to achieve the goal of welfare state. What are the methods, mechanism we have got, constitutional mechanism we have got to achieve these goals are democracy. Democracy, you know very well, by the people, for the people, we are going to do everything. So through the system of democracy, we want to achieve the welfare state by achieving all the goals through social revolution. How we are going to get social revolution? We will get social revolution by giving power to all institutions. We will see now what are the fundamental rights, how we want to achieve, what are the directive principles and all those things. In India, we have 104 amendments. 97th amendment is very important because it has brought notable changes in the Indian Constitution. You also, because of necessity, you need to identify certain important articles of the Constitution. In order to remember it, there are some methods. For example, in your exam, they may ask you, what is the difference between fundamental rights and directive principles of state policy? It looks very easy, but there are certain provisions which you have to read. There is no other go. I am just navigator. You also have to read all those provisions. I will just examine in this session. I will only introductory part I will do. In the next session, on each question, we will discuss at length. So now I am saying about the difference between fundamental rights and directive principles of state policy. After this, I will explain you what are the fundamental rights, what are the directive principles of state policy. The major difference between the fundamental rights and directive principles is that the former one is justiciable. That means if your fundamental right is violated, you can directly go to court. For that, Article 32 is there, giving a fundamental right to approach the Honorable Supreme Court for implementation of your fundamental right. There are differences between various rights. There are 4 types of rights. One is fundamental right. Second is constitutional right. Third is legal right. Fourth is any right created by statute or by convention. There is a difference between all these types of rights. Fundamental rights, all constitutional machinery is going to help you for implementation of it. So, fundamental rights, if violated, they are justiciable. You can go to court. But if the directive principles of state policy is violated, you can't approach the court. They are only principles to guiding the state to run the government. Then the directive principles of state policy cannot override the fundamental rights. So the state cannot violate your fundamental right under the guidance of directive principles of state policy. by stating that directive principles of state policy is guiding to make or run the government, and it cannot make a law overriding the fundamental rights. Fundamental rights may prohibit the state from performing various things, while the directive principles require or allows the state to perform specific things. Fundamental rights have the aim of establishing a democratic political situation in the country, while the later one focuses on establishing social and economical democracy in the country. So, fundamental rights aim is to establish democratic political situation, whereas directive principles they are focused to establish social and economical democracy in the country. We can say we have got 7 fundamental rights when Constitution is first came into force. There were 7 fundamental rights in the Constitution before the 44th Amendment of the Indian Constitution in 1978. Why? In 1978, by bringing into 44th Amendment, we have removed the right to property. So out of the 7 fundamental rights, one right to property is removed. After that, there are 6 rights. What are those 6 rights? One is right to equality. Second is right to freedom. Third is right against exploitation. Fourth is right to freedom of religion. Fifth is cultural and educational rights. Sixth is right to constitutional remedies. Seventh one, right to property, is removed. We have already read about preamble of this constitution. I will just read what are the important features of this constitution. I already said our constitution is the longest written constitution. In certain provisions there is rigidity, in certain provisions there is flexibility. When you read certain provisions, you feel so much rigid, because if we want to amend a particular right or particular provision in the constitution, so much procedure. You must first pass it in a parliament, that is in Lok Sabha, and then the state assemblies. Afterwards, in Rajya Sabha, 1/3, 2/3. There are so many rigid ways, rigid rules, and it is also flexible in some aspects. So while narrating about the silent features of the constitution, you can say our constitution is rigid and also flexible. Our constitution is the longest constitution and written constitution, and we have adopted the single citizenship. Only single citizenship is there. There are fundamental rights. 51A later added. Originally there were no fundamental duties, only fundamental rights were there. The constitutional assembly members, they never thought that there is a need for incorporating an article for creating rights, creating fundamental duties, because we were all fighting together under the leadership of great leaders to achieve the freedom. So there is no need to mention that you are having this duty. So at the time of preparing the constitution, they did not have a fundamental duties as one of the article. But 51A, after amendment, 51A is added, creating one of the silent features of the Indian constitution, that is fundamental duties. Then we have got independent judiciary, then integrated judicial system, then universal adult franchise, the federal structure of the government, then parliamentary form of government. You know very well emergency provisions. In 1975, we have had an experience of imposing emergency. So emergency provisions are also there. Then system of local self-government is there. Attention to scheduled areas, autonomy provisions to the some states. These are all the various silent features of the Indian Constitution. Our constitution is considered to be the supreme law of India, our supreme law of the land. You have so these are the various silent features of the Indian Constitution, and you can also say two or more another important aspects of this Constitution. You have to say anything by saying in Roman words, part 1, part 2, part 3. In Roman words only you have to mention the chapters. In the Constitution, there are several chapters. These chapters are referred by way of Roman words. So you cannot say part 3 while writing as part 3. You have to write in Roman words part 3. Whereas articles are concerned, you can write in numbers 22, 21, 23. So they may ask you whether a particular part 1 or part 2 by giving some answers to you, whether you put it in numbers or in Roman words. Okay. Then there are some rules and regulations. Collectively, they provide some provisions. 12 schedules are there. 12 schedules, 395 articles, and 12 schedules are there. Of course, after so many amendments, there are increasing of articles and all those things. It keeps on changing. The process of making changes to the Constitution is called amendment. There is a lengthy procedure for amending various provisions of the Constitution. We have adopted the principle of rule of law. Before that, I will say our Constitution is supreme. No politician or bureaucrat or executive can say that I am above the Constitution. Every institution and every citizen or anything is below the Constitution. The Constitution is supreme. Everything will come within the ambit of the Constitution. So, supremacy of the law of the land is Constitution. Then rule of law. Law says rule of law principle Dicey concepted above all the law. Everything is below the law. The king is below the law. If anyone is above the law, then there is every possibility of the ruining of that system. So there is no one above the law of the land, and everyone shall be treated equally before the law. Then separation of powers. The concentration of powers is not vested at one place. The three wings, that is legislature, executive, and judiciary, have powers over each other to control their actions. The objectives specified in the preamble of the Constitution, we already read. All the provisions or articles are written in order to uphold the principles included in the preamble to our Constitution. So, while discussing or interpreting any part of any article of the Constitution, you must keep in mind the objects mentioned in the preamble of the Constitution. Then we have other principle of judicial review. That is, the legislation made by Parliament is not final and can be scrutinized and declared as unconstitutional and void by the Supreme Court if brought to its notice. Suppose a law is made, if that law is not constitutional, a fundamental right or any other constitutional right or any right is violated, then the citizen of the country, if fundamental right is violated, can directly approach the Supreme Court and brought it to the notice of the court that this particular provision of illegal, it is violating my fundamental right. Then definitely that particular law is shut down by holding that it is void. Then federalism. Federalism, not truly federal as the United States of America, but we are a union of states with stronger central government. More or less looks like cannot send things to state, and similarly, state need not consult center to make certain laws. So I've got 3 lists: central list, state list, and then concurrent list. 3 independent different lists. So depending upon the subject mentioned in the list, either the state or the center, or in some cases, both of them have got concurrent lists. When concurrent lists are there, concurrent list, a subject is there mentioned in concurrent list, both Parliament and Assembly can make laws. When Assembly and Parliament can make laws, if the Parliament makes law, subsequent to Assembly makes law, then to that extent which is repugnant, contrary to the provisions, then that those parts of the provisions will be held as void. The balance between the fundamental rights and directive principles. In the parliamentary system of government, executive and judicial, legislative, we know President, Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, state legislature, other things. Executive side, Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers are executives. Then judiciary, Supreme Court is the highest court. The law made by the Supreme Court is the law of the land. It has to be implemented and accepted by one and all as per Article 141 of the Constitution. You must note down Article 141 of the Constitution, as per which the law declared by the Supreme Court is the law of the land. Likewise, then we have got high courts for each state. In some states, one common high court is there for several states. Then district level, we have got district courts. Below that, there are senior civil judges courts, and below that, magistrate courts. We have adapted the principles of free and fair elections. So we conduct elections in a free and fair manner as per the Constitution. Our judiciary is independent. It is not subordinate to any of the other wings of the power. That is, it is not subordinate to either executive or legislature. It shall be upheld through the Constitution, any law. Indian judiciary could be more or less very clear and categorical. Of course, we have got some tribunals also. I will explain to you about Constitutional Assembly. The Constitutional Assembly had 11 sessions over 2 years, 11 months and 18 days. So you can understand how much time they have taken. The constitution makers choose to go through the constitutions of 60 countries. 60 countries' constitutions are referred, and also the draft constitution was considered for 114 days. They have the entire expenditure incurred for making the constitution is amounted to 64 lakhs. So with this, we will go to different provisions. Before going to the different provisions, the chairman of Constitutional Assembly, Dr. Ambedkar, in view of various members of his committee could not attend for various reasons, had put lot of attention. The burden is on him to draft the constitution. Then that is the reason we are all grateful to him for having achieved the task in a manner in which undoubtedly it is commendable. He had experience. Our Honorable Dr. Ambedkar, he was a constitutional expert. He studied nearly 60 countries' constitution. That is the reason we say that he is the father of the Constitution of India. 389 members assembly originally constituted. Later it was reduced to 299 in view of partition of India. 11 sessions over 165 days period is spent. Finally, I would like to impress upon you that this assembly, the Constitutional Assembly first meeting was held in the Central Hall of Parliament House. The first person to address was J.B. Kriplani, Sachidananda Sinha. He has become temporary president. Of course, he was demanding a separate state. The Muslim League boycotted the meeting at that time. That is a different aspect. That was held on, first meeting was held on 9th December 1946. Then on 11th December 1946, the Assembly, Constitutional Assembly appointed Rajendra Prasad as its president, S.C. Mukherjee and as its chairman, and B.N. Rao as constitutional legal advisor. Out of these 389 members, 292 were from government provinces, 4 from chief commissioner provinces, and 93 from principal states out of these 389 members who, when the Constitutional Assembly was originally constituted. Later, about the number is declined to 299 after partition. At first, on 13th December 1946, an objective resolution was presented by Jawaharlal Nehru Garu, laying down the underlying principles of the Constitution. This is made later the preamble of the Constitution. So they ask a question: what was the resolution passed on what date before the preamble of the Constitution is made? You can say on 13th December 1946, an objective resolution was passed. This has become the preamble later. When on 22nd January 1947, unanimously, this objective resolution was adopted as the preamble of this Constitution. Later in 1976 or 78, there was an amendment of the preamble of the Constitution and socialist secular is added to it. On 22nd July 1947, we adopted the national flag. 15th August, achieved independence, and India split into the Dominion of India and the Dominion of Pakistan. Thereafter, on 29 August 1947, drafting committee was appointed with P.R. Ambedkar as its chairman. The other 6 members, as I said, that for various reasons they could not attend for a number of days. So it has become the duty of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar as a chairman to proceed with. Then on 6th July 1948, Harendra Kumar Mukherjee, V.T. Krishnamachari, they were also elected as second vice president of the Constitutional Assembly. 29th November 1949, the Constitution of India was passed and adopted by the Assembly. 24th January, last meeting of Constitutional Assembly, the Constitution was signed and accepted. At that time, it is important, when originally the Constitution was adopted, it was having only 395 articles, 8 schedules, and 22 parts. 22 parts. These parts you have to refer in Roman number. On 26 January 1950, the Constitution came into force. G.B. Mavlankar was the first Speaker of the Lok Sabha. Then our Constitution our constitution is having influence of the other constitutions. Other constitutions, as I said, directive principles of state policy is adopted from Irish constitution. Now we look into out of several 22 parts, part 1 is referring to the union and its territory. Part 2, I said to you 22 parts are there. So I am now referring to each part, and finally we deal with fundamental rights, and today with that we'll stop. So part 1 deals with union and its territory. Part 2 deals with part 3 deals with fundamental rights. Article 12 tells, Article 13 tells what is law. Article Article 14 deals with right to equality. You know what is right to equality? All citizens of this country are treated with equal status in all aspects. Now recently the Honorable, there must be speedy trial for the cases in which politicians are the leaders of this country involved in criminal cases. There is a hue and cry. They are also like all other citizens. While other citizens are not getting justice speedily, why there must be speedy trial for only politicians? Why can't be good trial or free trial, a paid trial for all? But the Supreme Court held there is political leaders are separate class. They have to follow the law, abide by the law. If they violate the law and if the cases are there, they must be tried separately and speedily and disposed of the cases. So equality means equal subjection of all classes. Treating equals equally, treating unequals unequally. That is the principle laid down under Article 14, right to equality. Then we have right to freedom of speech and expression under Article 19. Under Article 19, what we have is right to freedom of speech. We have no right to speak, no right to speak, right to freedom of speech. Several people, they say, I have a right to speak. No, he has no right to speak. He has got a right to freedom of speech. నాకు మాట్లాడే హక్కు ఉంది అని అంటారు. కాదండి, మాట్లాడే స్వాతంత్రం మాత్రం ఉంది. మాట్లాడే స్వాతంత్రం హక్కు ఉంది. So there is a difference between right to speak and right to freedom of speech and expression. Then we have got Article 21. Article 21 says, no person shall be deprived of his personal liberty except under due process of law. This Article 21, you can say it is the life of Constitution. Due process of law. Law must be legal. A illegal law or legal illegality cannot be permitted to be there in Indian Constitution. So no person shall be deprived of his personal liberty except under due process of law. Life includes everything. What is not life? Everything. Health is part of life. So This Article 21 is very important. Article 32 gives a right to approach the Honorable Supreme Court directly when any of the articles, any of the fundamental rights are violated. You also can approach under 226 of the Constitution any High Court for violation of fundamental rights. This is Article 32. Then Article 20 is there. 20 principle is one should not be punished twice for the single offense. If you have committed a crime, you must be punished. You cannot double jeopardy. That's called double jeopardy. Double jeopardy is not permissible under law. So this is Article 20. Article 21 we discussed. Article 32 I said. Then there are other fundamental rights. They deal with reservations. You can go through from 15 to 18. They deal with reservations. Of course, 17, it deals with prohibition of slavery, untouchability, and all those things. So Article 32 we discussed. Then Article 33 and other things, they deal with at what time, under what circumstances you can suspend the operation of the right of fundamental rights of a citizen. When martial laws are there, you can stop, you can say that fundamental rights are not in force. During emergency, you can say fundamental rights are not in force. Likewise. So we discussed in general about fundamental rights. Then directive principles of state policy. I told you about they are not justiciable. They are to run the government. Sir, Padmanabh Garu.
Yeah.
I don't know how much, what is the time?
క్లోజ్ చేద్దాం సార్, క్లోజ్ చేయండి. క్వశ్చన్స్ ఉంటే అడుగుతారు స్టూడెంట్స్. మేడం, కండక్ట్ ది క్వశ్చన్.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I will be closing it in 2 minutes.
Yes.
So, fundamental rights are justiciable, whereas directive principles of state policy is not justiciable. We have discussed today about various salient features of the Constitution and how we adopted the Constitution and what is the remedies available for an individual. And Article 51A, up to 51, it is directive principles of state policy. Article 51A tells us about the fundamental duties of every citizen of this country. How many duties are there? A to K, that is important. You must keep in your mind. If anybody asks you what are the fundamental duties and how many of them are there, you can count by stating A to K. This is the principle, A to K. What is the K right? K right is a duty cast on every parent to provide education to the children from 6 years to 14 years. So compulsory education, this is the duty. That is the reason then now a law is made providing compulsory education to all the children from the age of 6 to 14 years. So now I gave one video also recently discussing about this right. I said that why from 6 years, why not from 3rd year, why from 3 years to 14 years education is not, 3 to 6 years education is not provided by the government. So there will be some change in due course of time. So with all this, what I would like to impress upon you is, మహనీయులందరూ ప్రాణాల్ని త్యాగం చేసి మనకు స్వాతంత్రాన్ని అందించి స్వతంత్ర భారతంలో మనకు వెల్ఫేర్ స్టేట్, ప్రతి వాళ్ళకి కూడు గుడ్డ బట్ట అందించేందుకోసం రాజ్యాంగాన్ని రాసుకొని ప్రియంబుల్లో లక్ష్యాల్ని పెట్టుకొని ముందుకు వచ్చి ఈ రాజ్యాంగాన్ని మనకి ప్రసాదించారు. అటువంటి రాజ్యాంగంలో ఉల్లంఘనలు జరిగినప్పుడు కోర్టు ద్వారా జ్యుడిషియల్ రివ్యూ అనే పవర్ ద్వారా సమీక్ష జరిపి టు ద ఎక్స్టెంట్ వైలేటింగ్ ఎనీ ఆఫ్ ద ప్రొవిజన్స్ ఆఫ్ ద కాన్స్టిట్యూషన్, definitely the courts can hold that part of the law is void. So with this, I am now today I introduced various salient features of the Constitution to all of you. I wish you all the best. Now you all can under the supervision of madam and sir, can ask any question, not only today's related questions. You can ask any question, please.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, Aspa Naik has a question. Are all the fundamental rights for all people in the country or citizens of the country? Is it for all the people?
No, for all citizens.
For all the citizens?
Section Article 5 says who is a citizen. So if he comes within that citizen, every citizen of the country has got fundamental rights. There is a difference between citizen and non-citizen. All foreigners are not non-citizens. Some foreigners who come to our country during certain times, they are also treated as citizens. So section Article 5 defines who is a citizen. If once he is a citizen, he gets fundamental rights.
How many articles are there in the Indian Constitution is the next question.
Originally 395 articles were there, 8 schedules were there, but later there were so many amendments, like Article 51A, one amendment is there, that is added. Like 47th amendment in preamble, socialist secular is added. So originally 395 articles and 8 schedules.
Dear students, if you have any more questions, you can unmute yourself and ask sir.
Any questions not only related to the part of lecture which I have given, you can ask any question, because I am an experienced judge, lawyer and expert in certain fields. So you are having any doubt, you can get it clarified.
Now this week they will prepare on this topic, sir. And if they have any questions, they will ask in the next session also. Any students, please unmute yourself and ask the questions.
Next Saturday, same time, Malyadri sir will be giving a lecture.
They will be giving a lecture. Any other
Saturday,
questions?
same time.
Let them ask any questions. Let them have clearance. If they are having any questions or doubts, they can.
Kirtana,
Sir, the father of a constitution is B.R. Ambedkar. Then why they didn't make him the president, sir?
No, it is not like there is nothing like father of the constitution or anything. What was happened is, when Constitutional Assembly is established, because he was having experience, he is a constitutional expert. He was part of Simon Commission. He was part of several other making of laws. He was made chairman of the Constitutional Assembly for drafting the Constitution only. While drafting the Constitution, I said already to you, I will give you the example or details about it. Just 1 second. I will read. B.R. Ambedkar was a wise constitutional expert. He studied the constitutions of 60 countries. He is recognized as father of the Constitution of India, but he is not conferred. He is not father of. He is recognized. Why it is so? Mr. P.T. Krishnamachari, who is one of the member of the Constitutional Assembly, he said like this. At the same time, I realized the amount of attention that was necessary for the purpose of adopting a constitution so important to us at this moment. The House he was addressing the Parliament. While addressing the Parliament, he said like this. The House is perhaps aware that of the 7 members nominated by you, 1 had resigned from the House. See, 7 members are nominated. 1 is resigned. I'm talking about the Constitutional Committee members are 295. But a committee is constituted, executive committee is constituted, for which Mr. Ambedkar is the chairman. So out of the 7 members, 1 had resigned from the House and later he was replaced. 1 died. 1 person died. He was not replaced. 1 was away in America and his place was not filled up. And another person was engaged in state affairs. And there was a void to that extent. 1 or 2 more people were far away from the place, from Delhi. and perhaps reasons of health did not permit them to attend. So out of 7 members, some of them were attending, some of them were not attending for various reasons. So the burden has more on Mr. Chairman Dr. Ambedkar. So due to these reasons, we say that the burden of drafting constitution fell on Dr. Ambedkar. So we are grateful to him for having achieved this task in a manner in which undoubtedly commendable. That's all. There is nothing like he is father of the constitution like that. We recognize him as father of the constitution because of various reasons. Suppose a committee is constituted. Now this particular lecture I am giving, 40% are the persons, students are there. You are only asking question. Others are not asking question. Likewise, though there were 7 members committee for various not attend. Due to that, the chairman, the then chairman, Dr. Ambedkar, his burden is more. He discharged it. That's why we say he is father of the constitution. Okay.
Sir, one more question, sir. What is the basic structure of the constitution?
Yeah, it is very important. There is nothing like basic structure of the constitution. What has happened is all human rights, whatever human rights are there, which are not prohibited, they are the rights of every individual. Some of them are treated as important and they are put in fundamental rights, part of the fundamental rights chapter. Then there were so many amendments. There were some, when Indira Gandhi's election was questioned in Rai Bareli, there was one Raj Narayan filed one writ that was allowed. So she is declared as unfit for contesting, disqualified. She is disqualified for contesting elections. Then she brought an amendment. When that was the procedure adopted, in a Kesvanandi Bharati case, I will give you the details of that case also. In Kesvananda Bharati case, the Honorable Supreme Court held that by an amendment, you cannot amend the basic structure of the constitution. What is basic structure of the constitution? Democracy is a basic feature of the constitution. First, likewise, there are several things. Basic structure means, I will tell you the words of Justice H.R. Khanna, who was the judge of that case. He said, what is basic structure of the constitution like this? According to Justice H.R. Khanna, democracy is a basic feature of the constitution. I think it includes free and fair elections. Justice K.K. Thomas held the power of judicial review is an essential feature. Likewise, there are several features, salient features I have read about some time back. They are all part of basic structure of the constitution. You cannot violate the basic structure of the constitution. You cannot amend the basic structure of the constitution. This is the law laid down in Kesvananda Bharati case. There are many more, suppose secularism, sovereign democratic republic status, equality of status, and opportunity of an individual, secularism and freedom of conscience, and religion, and rule of law. These are and separation of powers. These are all the part of basic structure of the constitution. You can't amend those basic structures. If any law is made by country, by any parliament or assembly, violating the basic structure of the constitution, the Honorable Supreme Court held in Kesvananda Bharati case that that particular law is void ab initio. It has no existence in the law. Yes.
We can close
Thank
it.
you very much, sir, for beautifully explaining the basic structure of the Constitution, how it was, with great efforts from the Constituent Assembly, it was written. We will have the privilege of having you in the next session also, sir, to explain our students few more details about the Constitution. Thank you very much, sir. We are grateful to have you here.
I am also thankful to all of you, especially to Padmanabh Rao Garu,
Yes.
and also for conducting the session very well. I request all the students or the persons who are going to view this particular video or anything, please kindly make use of this time where COVID-19 is there, so you can't go out. Please read well, do hard work. Constitution is a very, very easy subject. I spent nearly 2 hours to read American Constitution. Then I understood how best our Constitution is than American Constitution. It was drafted in 1795, when there was no telephone, when there was no trams, when there was no cars. They went on bullock cart, they went on horses. They went on horse to Philadelphia, 12 states, 55 members. For a country, 350,000 squares of. So now I request all of you to read various countries' constitutions and compare it with our constitution. Then you will understand how best is our constitution. You are really lucky. Our Ananta IAS Academy is organizing very beautiful lectures on different subjects, especially on law. The basic law is constitution. If you understand constitution, you understand everything.